It was really unique to see somebody with a windsurfer, and then it grew to be the fastest growing sport in the world. They treated us like kings. It was insane.
One of the countries where windsurfing became extremely popular, Germany, I think the popularity was on these little inland lakes. There were so many people who wanted to windsurf, they had to race in the water.
It was such an in thing. You'd be driving around the Autobahn and, you know, 1 out of every 3 cars had a windsurfer on it.
And it was all about one design, it was all about the windsurfer, and we traveled for years and years and years representing it, competing at it, and just creating a life. We created a tremendous life. To this day, people say, have you been there? And I said, yeah. Have you been there? Yes, I have. We traveled the world non-stop.
By the late 1970s, windsurfing fever had Europe firmly in its grasp. Europeans that were attracted more to individual than team sports took to windsurfing like a swarm of bees on honey.
We had some tremendous conflicts when the team racing championships were held in the 70s. We would get in some of the greatest confrontations, and anytime you were in some kind of confrontation, port starboard, there's a tremendous amount of rules that went on back then too that we had to memorize, and we had to know how to apply them on the water. We would get in fights.
Oh yeah, Matt said he got like stabbed by a pencil once and stuff.
The Aguirre boys, and I think it was Alex Aguirre, was inside the protest room, and he won the protest, and that French guy ran out of that room, grabbed the garbage can full of garbage and tossed it into the room and just covered the judges, and that was the emotions that rang so high back then and the stuff, and it was fabulous growing up. It was fabulous.
Men were men before harnesses. We were tough.
There was a proudness that came with that, and some kind of, you know, just triumph that came out of that.
I mean, there was an excitement that was happening with windsurfing, you know, and those that were involved, you know. It was just, it truly was like a special era, you know. I don't know what the era is like now, you know what I mean? It might be really special for a lot of people now, but I think there's something really special when it's like the beginning.
Freestyle sailing broke the mold of triangle regatta racing and opened up new venues for artistic flair and aerobatic expression. What began with a spin and a rail ride had evolved into trickery that boggles the mind. Still, it was the early days of freestyle that bring back memories of when our sport was dancing.
Back then, there were a lot of people windsurfing, hundreds. A world championship would have 800 people, and a start was critical. And you know, 3 minutes before the start, Mike and I are out there doing rail rides and 360s and back to sail, and you know, we're looking at our watches. We knew what time it was, and 10 seconds to go, we'd get our act together and get a perfect start and do it. But our parents never liked us screwing around at the start.
Google his name and 70,000 hits arise. In 1976, he won his first overall World Championship title at the age of 13. 23 world titles later, Robby Naish has become a household name.
Robby Naish, Robby Naish, Robby Naish, Robby Naish.
Robby Naish, Robby Naish, Robby Naish, Robby Naish.
First thing comes to my mind with Robby, he was the king.
The king.
He's the icon, he's the man. He's Elvis Presley of windsurfing.
You know, I'm recognized more in some places than other places. You know, I can walk around in America all year and probably hardly ever get recognized, and when I do, it's usually a European tourist that recognizes me in an airport. And yeah, in some places it's everywhere you go. You go to Germany, everybody knows who I am. You know, your 80-year-old grandmother would probably know who I am.
It's a natural thing for him. He was just so smooth, so dominant, so dynamic. He never lost. He always was so amazing on the water and so aggressive. He had all the elements put together.
Maybe people feel sorry for him and they go, wow, he's 44, he's still windsurfing, he's stuck in a rut. I'm like, I'm not stuck in a rut. You know, I've got really a lot going on. Just a ton of different things. So it's not like any day is boring. There's always 50 million things to do and only an opportunity to do 10 million of them. So, you know, it's exciting. And at least at this point, I'm still loving being on the water just about every day. So it's all good. Windsurfing's been good to me.
The early 1980s saw a period of tremendous growth for windsurfing. Participation was at an all-time high. The Professional World Cup Tour was born, and the sport was awarded with Olympic status in the '84 Games. In Hawaii, riders were taking the sport to new rocket levels, and equipment developed at a feverish pitch. In Oregon, high wind river sailing changed sleepy towns into thriving communities. In Europe, places like Lago di Garda became hotbeds for the sport. Windsurfing was even brought indoors in France, fueled by high-powered fans and spectators. To those lucky to have lived it, it was the golden era of windsurfing.
First time I jumped a windsurfer was at Sunset Beach in California. You know, you'd be flying out and going fast and a wave's coming at you, and it's inevitable that what's going to happen. It's like on a motorcycle hitting a jump. You're going to get airborne. And I remember just yelling, going, oh my God, this is insane.
You know, I was like, yeah, you know, you had a brand new board every week and a new sale every month, and you know, the industry was classic. You'd have to buy this, and 6 months later, you'd have to buy that. That one's completely outdated, and you know, it was crazy for a while.
All of a sudden, there was no limit of what you could do.
Over the top, inventive. Anything you wanted to try, you had to try it. It was incredible.
If anything looked like it might work, you'd try it.
It turned completely, you know.
Totally wow, you know what I mean?
We had some classic, you know, trial and error learning curve behind us, you know, from gigantic heavy planks and foot straps that were fiberglassed on, and
it's classic. There were so many people coming out with, you know, funky ideas.
It's amazing how far it's come.
We had to now start thinking technically on our gear. We had to start thinking about equipment that was going to move faster, equipment that was going to perform more efficiently. We had to think about different sail designers, and this was probably an area that we were trying to keep at bay for a long time because we were one-class design racers. And it was almost a place that when you stepped over that line, then you were going to be in it forever.
It was just crazy. You know, it seemed like every month there was new equipment. The boards did this radical jump from, like, you know, 10.5-foot boards right down to 7-foot wave boards. And we got on these 7-foot surfing style boards, and it just, you know, suddenly it was like surfing.
With all patents expired, dozens of European and Japanese manufacturers produced their own versions of the windsurfer, and a new culture of fashion and funboarding was born.
The Pan Am Cup just broke everyone's barriers and paradigms on what windsurfing was all about and what it could do and where it was going. That's when people like Ken Winter was going, you know, forget these booms, we need something that telescopes. I mean, the guy, honestly, I watched him invent telescoping booms on the beach. There were things that happened at that event. One of the funny things that happened at that event was going around Bird Shit Island and seeing Bruce Matlack over my shoulder, and he had the airline life vest on him. And I'm like, can I pull those strings?
In the beginning, all the innovation was in Kailua and Oahu. Then in about 1980, it turned over to Maui.
Then came Maui, a windsurfer's paradise. Maui would become the mecca of the sport, where most designs of shortboard wave sailing were born.